You should be grateful, Sophia. My mother's voice sliced through the tension in the air, her tone carrying that suffocating weight of expectation, of duty. I stood frozen in our cramped living room, staring at the empty spot in my desk drawer where my savings had been, 3 years of scraped-together tips, overtime shifts and whispered dreams. Gone. Grateful. My voice cracked, my throat burning from the effort to keep myself together. You took my money without asking and spent it on Logan's laptop. How is that something I should be grateful for? Across the room, Logan lounged on the couch, the brand-new MacBook perched on his lap, glowing with the injustice of it all. He didn't even look up, fingers flying over the keyboard as if my pain were just background noise. It's family support, Dad chimed in from his recliner, flipping a page in his newspaper without sparing me a glance. You've always been so responsible, Sophia. You'll earn it back. The word struck like a slap. You'll earn it back. As if all my sacrifices, all the nights I came home exhausted, all the times I swallowed my own wants to keep this family afloat, meant nothing. As if my efforts were just a resource they could withdraw from whenever they pleased. I turned to Mom, desperate for even a flicker of remorse in her eyes, but there was none. Only that passive, unquestioning loyalty to her golden boy. He needed it for college, she said, her arms crossed like a shield. What kind of sister wouldn't want to help? Oh, you mean like the time I needed new tires to get to work, and you told me to figure it out? My voice was sharper now, laced with something dangerously close to resentment. Mom scoffed. Don't be dramatic. I let out a hollow laugh. Dramatic. I gestured wildly at Logan, who finally deigned to look up. He's sitting there with my money in his hands, and I'm supposed to just smile and call it generosity? Logan finally spoke, his tone flat, dismissive. It's not a big deal, sophomore. You always act like the world is ending. My chest tightened. Not a big deal. It was everything. It was the deposit on my first apartment. It was freedom. It was proof that I could carve out something for myself beyond this house where love felt like obligation and appreciation was a currency I'd never see repaid. I inhaled sharply, willing my voice to steady. You had no right, I said, quieter this time, but the weight behind it was heavier than any shout. Dad sighed like he was the victim in all this. Enough, Sophia. Logan is the future of this family. You know that. You'll understand when you have a family of your own. Something inside me cracked. They had stolen from me. And yet, I was the selfish one for being angry about it? I clenched my fists, swallowing the words I wanted to say, the words that would scorch the room, that would make them feel a fraction of what I was feeling. But they wouldn't listen. They never did. Instead, I turned, walked to my bedroom and shut the door. Not slammed. Not locked. Just shut. Because I knew now this wasn't a fight I could win. Not yet. The quiet of my bedroom didn't last long. A knock, sharp and impatient, rattled my door. Sophia, enough of this sulking. Mom's voice cut through the wood like a blade. Come out and eat dinner. You're acting childish. Childish. I laughed, the sound bitter and foreign. Childish was Logan getting a luxury laptop handed to him, while I worked double shifts to buy my own used phone. Childish was treating me like an ATM instead of a daughter. I swung the door open, meeting my mother's narrowed gaze. You stole from me, I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. And I'm the childish one? She sighed, crossing her arms like she was the one exhausted. It wasn't stealing, Sophia. It was helping. Logan needed it and your family. Why do you always have to be so difficult? Helping. I repeated, my jaw tightening. Did it ever occur to you to ask me? To even pretend my work means something? Logan appeared behind her, lazily leaning against the wall, arms crossed like he had all the time in the world. Jesus, Sophia. It's not like they took your retirement fund. He smirked, clicking away at his laptop. My laptop. You'll be fine. You always are. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I turned on my heel, walked to my dresser, and yanked open the drawer where I kept my stash of important papers, my birth certificate, my social security card, my bank statements. I was always fine, wasn't I? Because they expected me to be. Because they needed me to be. Well, not anymore. Now what? Logan scoffed from the doorway. You're gonna throw another fit? I shoved my papers into my bag without looking up. No, Logan, I said, my voice eerily calm. I'm leaving. Mom let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. Don't be ridiculous. Dad finally piped up from the living room, not even looking away from the TV. Sophia, you're not thinking straight. No, I said, shouldering my bag. For the first time in my life I am. Mom's face twisted in something between annoyance and disbelief. You can't just leave, Sophia. Where would you even go? And for the first time I saw how they never really believed I could survive without them. But I had. I had survived because of them, in spite of them. I stepped past Logan without another glance, heading straight for the front door. Where are you going? Mom demanded, voice rising. I pulled my phone from my pocket, my fingers moving fast as I opened the apartment listing I had been saving for months. A tiny one-bedroom across town. Small but mine. Away, I said simply. And then before she could say anything else, I hit block on their numbers. Mom's sharp gasp filled the air behind me. Logan muttered something under his breath, but I didn't care. For the first time in years I wasn't listening. I was done being the sacrificial lamb. And I was never coming back. I expected silence when I left. Instead, the war began. It started small. Missed calls from unknown numbers, voicemails I refused to listen to. Then came the messages from extended family, all echoing the same script. Sophia, your mother is devastated. You need to come home and apologize. How could you abandon your family after all they've done for you? I blocked them all. But Logan wasn't satisfied with guilt trips. He played dirty. Logan. Hey Soph, you might want to call Mom. I told her about that little incident at work. You know, the one that could ruin your reputation. I gritted my teeth, my stomach twisting as I stared at the message. The incident. Months ago, a cash drawer at the diner came up short. I'd been the last one to handle it, but my boss, Kara, trusted me. She knew I wouldn't steal from the place I practically lived in. Logan, though? He could twist that into something ugly. I marched straight into the diner, my hands shaking with anger. Kara stood behind the counter, raising an eyebrow at my expression. You okay, kid? I exhaled sharply. My brother's trying to blackmail me. Her lips pressed into a thin line. What's he got? I explained, my voice growing more unsteady as I did. Logan was probably calling my job right now, spinning some ridiculous story about me pocketing money. Kara didn't blink. Let him try, she said, wiping her hands on a rag. I know the truth. I know you. And if your family wants to make trouble, I'll make sure they regret it. A lump formed in my throat. I nodded, swallowing down the emotion clawing its way up. Kara believed me. Someone believed me. But the battle didn't stop there. I returned to my apartment that night to find my landlord waiting for me by the door. Got a weird call from your mother, he said, shaking his head. Told me you had a history of running from your responsibilities, and that I should reconsider renting to you. I stiffened. And he smirked. Told her I don't rent to busybodies who think they can control grown adults. He patted my shoulder. Your rent's on time. That's all I care about. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. They were trying to ruin me, to force me back. But for the first time I wasn't alone. And I wasn't helpless. The next day I started collecting proof, screenshots of Logan's threats, saved voicemails from my mother spinning lies, emails from relatives demanding I do the right thing. They had spent years twisting my life to fit their narrative. Now I was about to rewrite it. I wasn't planning on going. I had no reason to. Logan's birthday party was just another performance. Another chance for my mother to play the devoted parent, and for my father to pretend he wasn't just a silent shadow in his own home. But then I got the message. Logan, it's my birthday. Show up, be nice, and maybe I won't tell your landlord you forged your rental application. My hands clenched around my phone. That was it. They had stolen from me, lied about me, tried to sabotage me. And still, Logan had the audacity to think I would roll over? No. It was time they saw exactly who they had underestimated. The party was already in full swing when I walked in. The house was packed with family and Logan's friends, all laughing, drinking, completely unaware that the storm was about to hit. I spotted my parents near the cake, my mother whispering to a group of aunts, no doubt spreading more lies about me. Logan stood at the center of it all, smug and untouchable. He hadn't even noticed me yet. Good. I stepped forward, raising my voice just enough to slice through the noise. Happy birthday, Logan, I said sweetly. Since I'm feeling extra generous today, I figured I'd bring a gift. All eyes turned to me. Logan's smirk widened, but something flickered in his gaze. Hesitation. I pulled out my phone and tapped the first recording. Logan is the future of this family. You know that. You'll understand when you have a family of your own. Dad's voice echoed through the room. A ripple of confusion spread across the crowd. Before anyone could react, I played the next one. Mom's voice, sharp and dismissive. It's not stealing, Sophia. It's family support. A murmur started. Some people exchanged glances. A few relatives stiffened. Logan's face twisted. What the hell are you doing? I ignored him, turning the volume up. We could have added another room, but as Catherine said, we prioritized the real family. That was Mom from an email I had saved. The whispers grew louder. Aunts and uncles shifted uncomfortably. My mother's mask cracked, her expression tightening. Stop this, she hissed, stepping forward. I smiled, tilting my head. Why? Feeling exposed. Logan lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, holding up my hand. Don't worry, brother, I said coolly. This next part is for you. I scrolled down, pulled up a screenshot, and turned the screen toward the crowd. An email from Logan to my landlord. Subject: urgent. I thought you should know Sophia has a history of being unreliable. She stole from her last job. Might not be the best tenant choice. Gasps. My mother went pale. My father's expression darkened. And Logan? Logan looked scared. You've spent your whole life taking from me, I said, my voice steady, unwavering. Money, time, respect. And when I finally walked away, you still tried to ruin me. I turned to the crowd. But here's the thing, Logan wasn't just trying to ruin me. My parents helped. I pulled up bank records. Transactions, withdrawals, proof that my savings hadn't just gone to Logan's laptop, but to cover their debts. They've been lying for years. Using me. And now they don't even have the decency to be ashamed of it. Silence. Cold, suffocating silence. My mother opened her mouth, but no words came. My father looked down, his hands clenched at his sides. And Logan stood frozen, his perfect image cracking in front of his friends. You think you can control me? My voice was calm, but I felt the weight of every injustice, every sacrifice I had made for them. You never could. I turned on my heel and walked out. Behind me, the party crumbled into chaos. The echoes of that night followed me for days. I didn't look back after walking out of Logan's party, but I knew the damage had been done. I imagined the whispers, the shame clinging to my mother like perfume, the way Logan's friends would never see him the same way again. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. 2 weeks later, I signed the lease on my apartment. A small one-bedroom, nothing fancy but mine. Mine in a way nothing had ever been before. No one could take it from me. No one could reach into my life and steal what I had built. I stood in the middle of the empty space, the smell of fresh paint still lingering in the air, and let the silence settle around me. No Logan. No demands. No one telling me what I owed them. Just me. And my future. I threw myself into work and Kara took notice. You've been kicking ass lately, she said one afternoon, leaning against the counter as I wiped down tables. And I know you've been looking for something bigger than this place. I straightened. She smirked. Manager position just opened up. More hours, better pay, and she tossed a set of keys onto the counter. Your own office. My breath caught. You in? I picked up the keys, the cool metal pressing into my palm. Yeah, I said, a slow smile forming. I'm in. Then came the knock on my door. I almost didn't answer. But when I peeked through the peephole and saw my father standing there, shoulders slumped, eyes heavy, I hesitated. I opened it just enough to see him, but not enough to let him in. He held out a small box. I believe this belongs to you. I took it cautiously, prying open the lid. Inside sat my grandmother's ring, the one I had planned to pawn when they emptied my savings, the one Mom had misplaced years ago. I swallowed hard. Where did you find this? His jaw tightened. Logan had it, along with some of your other things. I let out a slow breath. Why are you here, Dad? He sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. Because I let it happen, he admitted. All of it. And I can't fix the past, but He nodded toward the box in my hands. I can try to return what's yours. I studied him, searching for cracks in the old facade. I don't forgive you, I said, my voice steady. Not yet. He nodded. I wouldn't expect you to. I closed the door before he could say anything else. I didn't cry. I didn't second-guess myself. I just breathed. And it felt like the first real breath I had taken in years. The past had taken enough from me. So, I decided to take something from it. The fundraiser was packed. More than I expected. More than I dreamed. People who understood, who had lived through what I had, manipulation disguised as love, sacrifice expected without gratitude, family using family as an ATM instead of a person. I stood at the front of the hall, gripping the microphone as I scanned the crowd. Kara was there, arms crossed, smirking like a proud older sister. My landlord, the one who had refused to believe my mother's lies, gave me a small nod from the back. Even some of my coworkers, people who had heard my story in passing but never knew how deep it ran, sat at the tables ready to listen. I cleared my throat, my fingers grazing the locket around my neck. My grandmother's locket. Dad had returned it weeks ago, placing it in my palm with an unspoken apology. I had spent years thinking it was lost, that it had been swallowed up by my family's endless cycle of taking. But somehow through it all it had survived. Just like me. I took a breath. Financial abuse doesn't always look like stolen credit cards or drained bank accounts, I said, my voice steady. Sometimes it looks like sacrifice that's never repaid. Like being told you should be grateful for being used. Like watching the people who are supposed to protect you take until there's nothing left. A murmur swept through the crowd. Heads nodded. Hands tightened around wine glasses. Some looked down, emotions tightening their throats. I let the weight of my words settle. But survival is a choice, I continued, my grip on the mic tightening. Rebuilding is a choice. And no matter what they tell you, you don't owe them your suffering. Applause rippled through the room. I exhaled a quiet, steady breath. For years I had let my family define me, define my worth, my future, my limits. No more. After the event I stood outside, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Dad, proud of you. I mean that. Logan, I get it now. I stared at the screen, reading the words over and over. Maybe they meant it. Maybe they didn't. But for the first time it didn't matter. Because I wasn't waiting for their validation. I wasn't waiting for their love to come with conditions, or for an apology to fix something too shattered to rebuild. I was free. I ran my fingers over the locket, the cool metal warm against my skin. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was proof. Proof that I could hold on to something, even when the world tried to rip it away. Proof that I had always been more than what they made me. I lifted my chin, the city stretching wide before me. My future mine and no one else's. It was time to write the next chapter. And this time I would be the only author.